Hello everyone. In this video we are going to see how to create fileset based PVCs on a remotely mounted file system. I have a remote cluster setup already ready. This is my remote cluster, which is a one node cluster, and a file system is created on this. And this cluster has been remotely mounted on my local cluster, which is SRoute 5 node, which is also part of the Kubernetes cluster. And implied fs is the file system which has been remotely mounted. So on my local cluster, the name of the file system is my implied fs, and on the remote cluster it is implied fs. On the left hand side, you can see that I have a Kubernetes cluster already set up, and CSI driver is installed and up and running. These are the pods, CSI pods, that are in running state: attacher, provisioner, the daemon set pods, and the operator that manages these pods. Now, in order to make use of fileset based PVCs on a remotely mounted file system, it is essential to add the cluster details to the CSI scale operator as well. So in this example, I am going to demonstrate how to modify an already running CSI driver so that you can add new cluster details to it. But however, you can also do that during the first time initial install. So let's first see what is the scale operator, CSI scale operator that we have. So this is the name of the CSI scale operator. Now let's see the current configuration of it. So if you see the spec, this is the current configuration. In clusters, we have only one cluster details, which is the primary cluster. Now what we want to do is add new cluster details to it. So we are going to edit this resource. So the editor is opened. You go to the spec section and make another entry for the new cluster. So the things that we are going to need is ID. The ID of remote cluster is this. And the new cluster is not primary cluster. Remember that in the list of clusters, there can only be one and only primary cluster, which is already our local cluster. The next thing we are going to need is the REST API section. And a GUI host. So for fileset based provisioning on remotely mounted file system, it is essential that GUI server is up and running on the remote cluster as well, which in my case is on this node. So this is my GUI host. Then you need the secret to connect to the remote cluster, and I've already created a secret for this called implied secret. Please watch my first video on installation of CSI driver to see how to create secrets for the GUI server. And uh, the secure SSL mode for this cluster is false. So these are the things that we need to give related to the remote cluster. Save it and exit from it. Okay, so the CSI scale operator is now edited. Now let's see the status of pods. Okay, so all the daemon set pods will come into a running state and will be reinitialized. The attacher, provisioner, and the operator will not be restarted. So if you see the daemon set pods, their age is now few seconds because they have just been reinitialized. So all the three daemon set pods have been reinitialized and are into the running state, which means now your CSI driver has been reinitialized with the configuration of two clusters. Now let's see how to create the PVCs. You're ready to now create fileset based PVCs on a remote file system. So first step is to create a storage class. So the name of my storage class is scfset, and the values I need to provide are volume backend file system name. Now this file system name has to be the name of the file system on your local cluster. In our case, it is my implied fs. And cluster ID is the remote cluster ID. Save it and let's create this. The storage class is created. Now let's create the PVC manifest file. In the PVC manifest file, I've given the PVC name as offset PVC. We are trying to claim the storage of 1 gig and storage class name specified is scfset, which is what we had given in the storage class. Now let's create the PVC. The PVC is created. Let's check the status of it. It is in the pending state. It will take a while to come in the bound state. Let's wait for a few seconds. You can now see that the PVC has come in the bound state. Our fset PVC is now in bound state. Now let's check whether the file set is created. So under my implied fs, we have a file set created with this name, which corresponds to our PVC name. And this is remotely mounted file system. So this also must exist here. So even on the remote cluster in implied FS, you would see the file set based PVC that was created.